Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Pally. So I'm getting on Zoom and trying a little experiment here. I'm going to go over some of the instructions that students recently have tried to tackle with the most recent paper, which was M4A2 Analytical Essay Planning Document. And please forgive my voice. It's kind of coming in and out. I've been fighting off a cold for a couple of weeks now. So, yeah, I just finished grading the M4A2 papers, and for the most part, students were doing pretty well, but I had some concerns, and I thought it might be easier for me to sort of do this verbally since, this is an online class and you guys have so much you have to read. Hopefully, this will be helpful to you. So, first of all, I sent out a message through Canvas on July 4th where I talked about the difference between primary and secondary sources. And let's see, make sure I'm in student view here. Please make sure you have read that. If you go over to the inbox, you will see the message there from me that talks about that. And let me go here into the modules and we'll take a look at those. So the primary source is mainly what you're going to focus on when you write your paper. And our primary source is chapter 1, it's right here, of Agatha Christie's Murder in the Callous Coach. And you'll see here it says that you're supposed to read the first chapter. Um, right here it says the link provides you access to chapters 1 through 5, but you should only read to the end of chapter 1. You should stop reading at the end of page 7, which is at the beginning of chapter 2. So that means when you write your paper, you're only going to focus on information that was provided in chapter 1. Of course, we know Agatha Christie, a lot of us are familiar with her work. She wrote lots of murder mysteries, right? So you guys know there's going to be somebody's going to get murdered in this novel of hers. However, that does not happen in the first chapter. So if for some reason you are talking about the murder in your paper, that means you're off topic and not following instructions. Also, notice the title here. Some students have been calling this Murder on the Orient Express. Yes, it was renamed at one time, but again, your instructions are to read chapter 1 of Murder in the Callous Coach. And I have it pulled up already right here. Okay, so that means you'd read this page, this page, this page, and then end right here where he's at the hotel. Okay, not a lot happens in these first few pages. Basically, the character of Perot is introduced. We know who he is, and he's described to us. He's at a train station and he's talking to an officer. There's a little bit of an awkward conversation there between the two of them because they don't really know each other that well. And it's super cold out. There are a couple other characters that pop up that he meets on the train later. And he thinks there's something going on between the two. He's not really sure what that is. And that's kind of how it ends. They finally end up he ends up at a hotel later. I think that's at the very end of this. Yes. Um, so he arrives right here is the very end. On their arrival at the bridge, she drove straight to the hotel. Okay. That's it. If you're talking about, you know, the murder or justice or law and order, I mean, you're way off. Okay, folks. You're supposed to only talk about chapter 1. That's the main source of your paper. Okay. So keep that in mind. So like I said, that's the primary source, and then that's given to you here, and it's linked again in chapter 2 or in module 2, and then later on in module 3 we get the secondary source, and there's a little video here that talks about what's the difference between a primary and secondary source, and I talk a little bit about that in my July 4th message to you guys. But basically, the Horowitz video, talks in general about murder mysteries. So it relates somewhat to the Christie chapter, but it's not the main focus of your paper. In fact, you're just going to sprinkle little bits of information from the video to support your ideas. But mainly your focus will be on the chapter 1 of the Christie novel. Okay, so Some students think they're writing about both of these. Some people were actually just writing about the Horowitz video. I mean, there's a little bit of everything going on right now, but hopefully that's a little bit clear. And then you were to write the planning document, which is basically an outline, and it's just presented two different ways. You get an option to put it in boxes or to write a traditional outline, and that was what M4A2 was. The instructions for that are here, M4S11. Again, I've pulled these up already because they're downloaded, so I just wanted to save us time. And if I go over here, you'll see that you're basically plotting and planning to write a 650 to 800 word analysis about your primary source, Chapter 1, Agatha Christie's novel. And I am into quality over quantity. I would much rather read 750 fabulously grammatically correct words that are focused on the correct primary source um, than 800 words of baloney. Let's put it that way. So please don't pad your papers. Um, I'm not into more is better. I'm into, like I said, quality over quantity. And then right after that, you can see here it says your goal in this essay will be to make a claim supported with evidence from both the primary source and the secondary source in response to this prompt. This is your prompt. This is what you have to write about. This is your topic that you're mainly writing about, okay? If you write about anything other than this prompt right here, you're off topic, all right? It says, how does the author use word choice, denotation, connotation, imagery, or description, and tone to convey the main idea? How does that happen in Christie's Chapter 1? That's all. If you're talking about, again, something like the murder and, justice for all and all this kind of weird stuff, I don't know where that's coming from, but you're off topic. So rein it in, folks, rein it in. Then we have some samples down here using the sample poem, The Red Wheelbarrow. But I just wanted to point out a couple things with this. So these samples are not talking about the Christie chapter, right? But you can see some things that will be helpful here. For example, thesis statement. Notice how that is one sentence. It's not a paragraph. It's not two sentences, okay? It's not just a couple of words. It's a complete sentence, right? So you're going to write a thesis statement that is one complete sentence that clearly connects to the prompt that's up here in number 2. Again, if you're writing about something else, you're off topic, not following instructions, will not do well on this next assignment, okay? Then the topic sentences. The topic sentences are reasons why your thesis is true. This asks you to give 3 topic sentences. Again, these are complete sentences, not fragments, right? Later on, the person who did this, it was not me, I will say, has some fragments here and a kind of mishmash, but you can see there's some sources used here, in-text citations. We get a little bit of gist of what's going on. Personally, I would prefer to see complete sentences in something like this, but this kind of just gives you sort of an idea. It's an example. And then if we go down and we got in-text citations, those things in parentheses. So anytime you paraphrase, directly quote, or summarize the source, you would have in-text citations. So in our case, it would be, for example, Christie, and then there were page 7. I think the page numbers were like 5, 6, 7. So it might be Christie 6, all right? And then we have the in-text citations down here, or the works cited down here, that each source is listed. This next model or example is the same information, is just formatted differently in the form of the traditional outline. So same information, right? So the next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to write a paragraph and you're going to put it in the, it's down here in module 5, right? And it's peer reviewed. We've got more instructions. I get it that there are a lot of instructions for this class. The thing is, you have to keep in mind, you are taking a summer class, and so the timeline is condensed. The content of the course is not. None of the course has been deleted, right? All the content that you're doing, a student typically does in 16 weeks. You have chosen to do it in 6 weeks. It is possible to do it. I teach this class pretty much every summer. online just like this. So I've seen plenty of students get through it. My experience with summer students is that typically you guys are very good students. And so I just wanted to reach out and tell you I understand you're struggling, some of you guys. I'm still here for you if you need some help. If you do have questions, try to be as specific as possible with them. You know, I do not regrade, that's in my syllabus. I would not have time to regrade. This class is just zipping by, but I would just say if you're struggling right now, take a step back, review the coursework again that maybe you read too quickly or you didn't understand. Make a list of questions that as specific as possible to send to me if you want some help. And also consider getting tutoring help at the free tutoring centers at each campus or virtually. IRSC has online help as well, and it's all through the library. So they have free tutoring centers for you guys, so totally worth checking into. And that's it. I hope this was helpful.